welcome to the video. First of all, let me say that it'll be obvious that I'm no professional videographer, so hopefully that won't be too much of a distraction for you. The objective here was to put together in chronological order, using footage, video footage and photographs, my experiment with putting together a fall kill plot using cowpeas on a small food plot. My food plot's in Harrison County up in northeast Texas, and if you've ever tried to plant peas before for deer, you know that as soon as they come up out of the ground, the deer wipe them out, and so it's pretty much a waste of time for a kill plot unless you have quite a bit of acreage. So the trick was to use a small footprint and to have cowpeas as a magnet in my food plot during the archery season leading up to the rut, which in our area kind of hits mid-November. So I can say it was successful. You can see by the photograph here, the peas did come in good. The real trick here is utilizing the 3D electric fence. That's the only thing that keeps the deer out and lets the pea patch get mature. And it worked out great. That 3D fence that I used was the one that was designed and tested by Dr. Hickenbotham at Texas A&M's AgriLife Extension. I'll place a link in the description below to the information on the 3D fence, where it gives a lot of detail on the construction of it. It's really simple. Shouldn't have any trouble with that, but I'll place that and links to some other information in the description box below. Let me kind of give you an idea of the footprint of the entire lease. It's a little over 1,000 acres, cut timber, some mature timber, quite a bit of hardwood, lots of white oak trees, lots of water, creek, ponds, that nature. We have about 20 or so of these small food plots scattered around. You can see in this video there's just a few of them scattered around there, but this is probably half or less than half of the deer lease here. The food plot that I used for the experiment, the previous year I'd only used a small portion of it to plant some oats on. So the plot this year was in pretty bad shape. You can see here this was 2019, only part I used to plant oats on. The plot this year, like I said, as you can see here in this picture, it was grown up pretty good. Some of it waist high, really bad shape except for the one end that I'd used last year, and it was still grown up quite a bit. First thing I did is I sprayed it down with the 41% glyphosate, which you can find at Tractor Supply or a lot of other places. It worked pretty well. I ended up having to spray it again, actually, but sprayed it the first time with it high like this, and then a month or so come back in and mowed it. And you can see here how much of the stuff is still on the ground, still pretty bad shape. But like I said, after mowing it, I wasn't happy with the weed kill, and so end up spraying it again, and you'll be able to see a little bit later what it looked like. After mowing it and letting it set for a while, the next step, after I'd kill the weeds off that I was happy with, with that process, I wanted to put down the lime in the area that I was going to plant the peas. You can see here, this is what it looked like before the second spraying. I used the barn lime. Barn lime goes to work a lot quicker. I didn't have time to use the pellet lime. The pellet lime is much easier to put out. It's twice as expensive, coming in at about $7 a bag, where the barn lime is about $3.50. But you can see it's pretty much a pain to put the barn lime out. But given the time constraint, that's what I ended up going with. But you'll be able to see here, this was the last year's spot here, but this year, this is where I was going to plant the peas. You can see the lime down. You can also see the more of the weeds have been killed as a result of the second spraying. So I was pretty happy with this at this point right here, and I needed to then get to the work of disking it up. Fortunately, my cousin was able to help me out with a good tractor here with a disc. We were able to get the first step done, disking it in, and it actually did a great job. Got it into a condition that was pretty close for planting. I wasn't totally happy with it, so I came back in a few days after doing this with a box tiller with the panel on the back that kind of smooths it out as you till it up. And after doing that, I was real pleased with it, and it was ready for planting. You'll be able to see here it ended up being a lot smoother here in this video. You can see it's a lot better, in good shape for planting. So here on August 26th, it's when I started planting. That date, I would normally have waited just a little bit later, but Hurricane Laura was coming. I knew that we were likely to get some good rain, so I went ahead and put out the peas, the oats, the clover, broadcast the fertilizer and the oats out first in the large broadcaster. Did the peas and the oat and the clover, in a hand broadcaster. Last thing I did was drag everything except for the clover. I put the clover out very last without dragging it. Didn't want to cover it. That ended up working out okay. As you can see here, the drag, I just used a pallet with some weight on it. Worked out just fine. Of course, the last step is putting in the 3D fence, and I was just going to put it around where I put the peas. You can see here. Like I said, I'll have more information in the description of where you can get information detailed on the fence, but it's real simple. The outside perimeter poly tape is 18 inches off the ground. Then you come in 3 feet and you use your poly rope, 12 inches and 24 inches off the ground. And then the last loop around, poly tape again, 18 inches. Use a good ground stake by your controller, your solar controller. Make sure you got a good connection to ground, and everything should work fine. Like I said, I knew that rain was coming in from Laura, so 2 days later after the planting, I had plenty of rain. And it really made the peas jump out of the ground. You can see here it's 9 days later. Peas coming good. You can see oats are starting to come up and, around there also. I'd also note that I have a corn feeder in there, but I did not get the corn feeder going. I waited late to start the corn feeder just to keep the hogs out of there. This is 17 days later. You can see it's coming up really good. Oats coming up good around it also. Although the deer were hitting the oats pretty hard because it was the only oats that come up quick. All the other food plots hadn't been put in yet. Here's 46 days later, October 7th, week into the archery season, and the peas were in great shape. As you can see, they did really well, but they still weren't hitting them very hard. I decided to take down half the fence on the 7th. This is what I've done here to see what would happen. And 9 days later, the part that I removed was nearly completely wiped out. They were really hitting it hard now. And, just worked out better than I expected. The deer started really finding the peas outside of the fence too, and started really hitting them pretty hard. You can see here they pretty much stripped the plants of the leaves. You can see here from the arrow what it looked like, the difference between the part removed and the part that remained on the 16th of October. The deer had also been hitting the oats really hard. I think it's just because they were the first oats out of the ground on the property. You can see here a trail camera caught a doe. It looked like she got into the electric fence. I mean, she's about to turn inside out here. In November and prior, I had quite a bit of deer start to hit the plots. The bucks started showing up. I'm sure, looking for does. Even up to November 17th, this buck's still in the pea patch. I'll point out that ladder stand in the back was a new ladder stand. I just leaned up there about a week prior to this to put up for next year. So it's not actual stand there, but well by the end I had the corn feeder going. Here's what it kind of looked like at the end of the season. clover kind of more over to the left, and you see the peas to the right that are brown. I highly recommend getting a soil test. It's going to tell you, if you're in East Texas, it's going to tell you to put a lot of lime down. You can't over lime, and I can't emphasize enough how important the lime is to making sure you've got a good food plot. But I highly recommend that. Several of them out there on the market. Here is kind of the stuff that I used. Obviously, the fertilizer. Let your soil sample results tell you the fertilizer to use. The clover, I use the Apache Arrowleaf clover from Hancock seed. The clover and the peas, you need to inoculate, so you have to make sure you get the right inoculate. Oats, I'm a fan of buck forage oats. Like I said earlier, the lime, you can use the barn lime or you can use the pellet lime. Pellet lime is twice as expensive, but it goes down a lot easier, but you need it in the ground a lot sooner. The barn lime goes to work a lot quicker. I got both of my inoculants and my seeds and everything from Hancock Seeds. I can't say enough about how good these people are. Their customer service is really good, real responsive. They seem to have the inventory when I need it. I will say this: if you decide to go with Red Ripper cowpeas, which I planted, you need to order them early because they seem to sell out everywhere across the country. I mean, I call all over the U.S. and I had a hard time, and fortunately, Hancock still had them. This is the material for the fence. Poly rope, the poly tape, the solar panel. It uses like a 6-volt battery that you'd use on a feeder. Worked great. Make sure you got a good ground post. I like the one that's like a T-handle because it's easy to get in and out of the ground when you're done. I really was pleased with using the plastic stakes. If you use T-post like I did on the corners, you have to have the insulator shown here to put on the T-post where you wrap your tape and your cord around. Okay, just to summarize kind of everything, you're going to spray your herbicide in June. Repeat after mowing if necessary. Depends on how your weeds are. You might want to spray again. Normally you mow mid-July and apply your lime then. Earlier if you're using pellet lime because it takes a little longer to go to work. Mid-August, disc or till to prepare your seed bed. And depending upon the rain forecast, you can fertilize, plant your peas, your clover, and your oats before September 1st to give peas time to mature by mid-October. Don't worry about it if you miss it a week or so, depending on the forecast. It's important to inoculate your peas and Apache Arrowleaf clover. Do not overcover your clover seeds. Clover should produce until the spring. Install your 3D fence last, but as soon as you finish planting. Make sure ground rod is in deep and you have a good connection, and test your fence with a voltmeter. Depending on your plot size, follow a planting rate provided by seed supplier, if broadcasting typically 50 plus pounds per acre. Ideally, cover peas is 1 inch of dirt. For East Texas and Southeast in general, Apache Arrowleaf clover is well suited due to its drought resistance. Plant 15 to 20 pounds per acre. It's like I said, on the clover, you don't want to cover with too much dirt, and peas about 1 inch. Okay, your 3D solar fence. This is the most important part. Exterior fence, you use that electric poly, the tape part, 18 inches above the ground. Move in 3 feet. The middle fence, you're using poly rope, 12 inches above the ground and 24 inches above the ground. Move in 3 feet. And your interior fence, you use poly tape, 18 inches high. Red Ripper peas is a cowpea variety that had been planted in the South since early settlers, noted for its high protein yield, drought resistance, and enhancing soil nitrogen. The deer continued to eat my peas until the first frost. Utilizing peas, oats, and Apache leaf clover gives you a food source from October through March. Kind of depending on kind of weather and rain, it might vary. This is what I'll do different next season. I'm going to plant a summer pea patch. In fact, that's already in the works, getting ready to do that. I will not use T-post again, not worth the trouble. I'm going to double the seed rate for my clover and oats. The peas are such a magnet, it causes the oats to get a lot more pressure. So I'm considering maybe even planting oats toward the end of September. I haven't decided that yet. Hogs never touch my pea patch, most likely due to electric fence, but also because I didn't start my corn feeder till later. And remember, the most critical thing is lime. That really makes a big difference. And then, of course, pray for rain. Get some rain and you're good to go. Well, if you decide to plant your fall pea patch, I hope this video helps you out. If I left anything out, have any questions, just put it in the comments section and I'll answer and get back with you guys. Thanks for watching.